Hello, everyone. Okay. So sorry for the technical delays. I think we're almost ready to go.
Okay, I think we're good to start.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. And again, really sorry about the technical delays. This is the first of hopefully many series, so we're getting it up and running, and next ones will run smoother. Of course, we will share out a recording at the end of this. We'll plan to go a little bit over the scheduled 30 minutes, but we'll share out that recording afterwards if you're not able to stay, with the new timing adjustment. So, with that, let's shift gears. I'm very excited to welcome everyone to the first ever installment of the PypeUp Webinar Series. I am Yael Smoller, account executive here at Pypestream, and I have the honor and privilege of introducing our SVP of Customers here, Elana Feldman. A little bit about Elana. She currently runs our CX team and has been an integral part of Pypestream for coming up on 5 years now. Prior to Pypestream, Elana was at Nuance Communications as a senior speech and data scientist. Her background is in computational linguistics with a degree from Cornell. A few fun facts about Elana that I've just learned is that she is a licensed ski instructor and has never had COVID. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it. With that, a little bit about the webinar. We will be hearing from Elana on generative AI, a little bit of an overview on its history and the different models used today, and then most importantly, the applications for CX. We'll have some time for questions at the end, so if you have any thoughts or questions, jot them down and we will hopefully be able to get to them. Without further delay, we've already had some. Elana, please take it away.
Thanks, Yael. And my secret to not getting COVID is living under a rock. So I stay safe that way. Okay. So as Yael said, my name is Elana Feldman. I run our CX team, customer experience team here at Pypestream. I'm going to talk today about generative AI, give a bit of background, kind of explain what all the models is, what all the acronyms are, talk about some different use cases, and pros and cons of using generative AI. If you do have questions throughout, please throw them in the chat, and we will be monitoring that, and I will answer them at the end. Also, please feel free to send them to me afterwards. I will make my email available to everyone. So what is generative AI? It's a term that we've started to hear a lot, and it's a term that I think popped up kind of towards the end of last year as a very hot topic. So I want to kind of go through what it is, what it's not, and how it's different. So generative AI is a specific type of AI that is about creating new or novel content. It's trained on LLMs, large language models, that generate new content, and it mimics the style of the training data in its tone and style, and that's how it kind of learns, similar to a human. It is really good at creation and generation, generative AI. It can create image generation, images and text and music even, though not super relevant to customer experience, but very interesting. And it has a lot of different implications inside of customer support because it can be very personalized and it can be trained on specific knowledge bases to act as a domain expert. It's different from what we call discriminative AI or traditional AI, where discriminative AI, which is if you talked to me last year or kind of the conversational AI space as a whole until this year, was really around traditional or discriminative AI, which is a training model that says we've seen these items before. In the example on the right, we have the star and the rectangle, so you can understand shapes based on how many points they have, and then the model is able to classify new shapes based on the information into those categories that it already knows. Generative AI is different because it doesn't have to have seen something before to be able to recognize and create information around that. So that's where it gets that novel and really generative sense. I like this slide because this is a good kind of vision of what types of models are around, as well as kind of to understand that this field is really new. This field started in 2018, which is why if it feels like it came up fast and it's really developing and emerging quickly, it is. So back in 2018, we had things like Glove, Word2Vec. You may have heard of things like BERT or Elmo, which are models of classification. All of those really laid the foundation for our decoder-only large language models today, which is, you can see around here, we have the GPTs emerging. And then in late 2020, we have GPT-3, which pretty bad timing and world-wise, which is why kind of it didn't rise to real prominence until ChatGPT came out at the end of 2022, which was built on top of GPT-3. Since then, we've obviously had a huge number of large language models develop, including GPT-4. GPT-5 is expected to come out later this year, or early next year, as well as Bard and Claude. So everyone is on the train. And there's just a lot of different options out there, and they all kind of have their different styles and different training data, which makes them good at different tasks, which I'll talk about. So why was GPT-3 so revolutionary? As you saw on that graph, everything kind of shot up after the rise of GPT-3. It's because of the scale. GPT-3 was trained on 175 billion parameters, where everything previously had been not even at that 10 to 15 billion parameter level, which makes it really good at what's called zero-shot or one-shot learning, where it can generate those novel concepts based on seeing only a little bit of data previously. It also, because of the amount of data that it's trained on, it is context aware. So it's able to generate responses that are kind of very tailored to the context, as well as take multimodal inputs. So it can process anything that it can generate. It can also process, so text or images or music or raw data. It can take that in and use that for its generation. Current LLMs, however, are even bigger. So we have GPT-3 down here with our 175 billion parameters, but GPT-4, not totally confirmed, but rumored to have 1.8 trillion parameters, which some people argue is too large. And GPT-5, which is expected to be released, I think, mid-2024, is going to have about 1 billion or 1 trillion. Similarly, Gemini, which is the next Google one, Claude Next, which is the Anthropic new model, also are rumored to have about 1 trillion parameters. And right now, the game is really around finding the optimal number of parameters and the optimal number of data to be able to train a powerful model. The difference, however, between GPT and ChatGPT or Palm versus Bard is that the conversational models, so Chat and Bard, are built specifically to be chatbots. So they're built on top of those base models with that customization for having those natural language conversations, not just synthesizing data and spitting out data, but actually having that human-to-human content. We can also do that for other domains, however. So you can train a custom LLM on any type of data and make it really domain specific. So in the same way that ChatGPT is specific to be a conversational agent, for specific tasks, you're going to want to fine tune a model that allows it to understand that specific data and become an expert in that realm. The other aspect which is important to talk about is prompt engineering. So prompt engineering, along with customization, is really how we get to those custom models, which are fantastic for CX integrations, because we're able to tell the model, you are, in the case on the right, you are an agent for Delta. You are allowed to answer questions about flights and baggage, etc. Anything out of scope, try to bring the user as much as possible back to that conversation. In the same way that a live agent would. So on the right, I asked just ChatGPT, who's the president of the United States, and it gives me an answer because it can say Joe Biden is the president of the United States. He was born in 1942, which makes him 80 years old. But once I train a model and use prompt engineering to say, you can only talk about aspects that are relevant to our domain, and I ask how old the president of the United States, the USA, it says, I don't have that answer. I'm a Delta agent. I can answer questions about flights. How can I help you there? And that is a really important aspect that we use. And figuring out what are the right prompts is key to developing a good CX integration. So some risks, and I'm going to fly through this. As with all AI, bias is going to be a risk. The models are only as good as the training data. In cases where the data is trained on the internet is a biased place. Misinterpretation, where the model doesn't always necessarily understand what the user said, but unlike a human, where if they don't understand, they can ask, or they might know that they didn't understand, it doesn't always know that it didn't understand. And then incorrect information, where we've all heard of those AI hallucinations where it generates information that isn't necessarily true if it doesn't have enough domain knowledge about what it's being asked about. And limitations where it's not necessarily as personalized as it could be with a live agent, a finite scope where it doesn't know everything that a live agent might know. It might be really good at understanding baseball history, but it doesn't know your business's policies and regulations. Additionally, it's not actionable. We've all seen that. As an AI model, I can't help you do that, but I can tell you about it, which is really where I think an integration of generative AI and an automation platform like Pypestream comes into play, because we can help you make those actionable. As well as security, where data security and understanding really who owns what data and where it goes is totally paramount and very key in this environment. Talking about potential use cases, and I know I'm running. We've seen through our conversations that a really great place to start with generative AI is actually internal in the business as an agent assist. So we have worked with a bunch of our customers to kind of spin up and the ability to have a generative AI assistant for the agents who then assist a customer. In cases where we need just a summary of what the user did before getting to the live agent, generative AI can create a really concise summary highlighting the important points. It can give template responses and just give the agent kind of the basis, and they can edit as they want. It can similarly synthesize FAQs as well as just understand general sentiment. The idea here is really to turn every agent into the best agent by understanding what are the right questions to ask, what information is important to know. Additionally, with travel, so generative AI can be a great travel agent. It can create itineraries. It can help with escalation where a user needs to help rebooking flights or tracking luggage. Those are things that right now would go to a live agent in a lot of cases. But because generative AI can be trained on all of the different options, it can put together an entire itinerary for you. Additionally, retail. So, and this is an example I'm going to show, but offering personalized recommendations based on current inventories. So a generative AI can synthesize, here's what we have available, here's what the user is looking for, this is what I'm going to offer. And that's a really, really powerful case, as well as all the other kind of more typical customer support activities. And then insurance, we've seen really powerful cases for generative AI as kind of a claims agent, making sure that all of the information, especially for a first notice of loss, making sure that the user gives all the right information in a paragraph, and then putting that into the right format to submit, as well as educating users around policies and renewals, and just training training on kind of customized policies. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of questions come in. I'm going to do a quick demo of a use case for retail, and specifically car retail, and then we can talk about, and then I'll go to the questions. So, okay. I see my face on top of the pipe. Is that true for everyone else? Okay, I'll take that as I can go ahead. So I'm going to go down this path and try to find a vehicle. Let's say that I'm looking for, oh, it is for me. Okay, perfect, that should be better. Amazing. Okay, so I'm looking for a vehicle. I just need a vehicle for a commute, but I do have kids, so I want something a little bit larger, but with good gas mileage. So I'm going to, I'm going to look for, let's see, gas mileage, as well as model or body type and features. So again, this is looking up, we have an inventory of what is available to our consumer right now, what is on the lot. So it's not going to offer everything in the world. It's going to offer only things that we can actually give them. So I'm going to say, I want an SUV. I want mileage range. I'll give it everything. And I'm specifically looking for, let's see, keyless entry, as well as third rear seat. So again, so these are specific models. It found 30 models that match that because I gave it very broad parameters, but being generated based on what is on the lot, and matching my criteria. It's not based on any keywords. It's not based on any kind of metadata tagging. This is all generative AI. But using the power of integration with automation, I can then click on Learn More and go and explore. Whereas a kind of a typical chat GPT integration, it could tell me, oh, the Escalade is going to match your criteria, but it doesn't know that it's available and on the lot and you can go buy it. And it also won't give you the actual opportunity to go purchase. Okay, so that is my demo. I'm going to go back to my slides. And take some questions that I see being posed in the chat. So I think, so in terms of I have a question here about specific industries or CX scenarios for generative AI where it's shown potential, exceptional potential for transformation. We've seen across the board, really industry agnostic. We've seen use cases for generative AI because it has that power to really give personalized recommendations. It's been totally agnostic to industries because every industry is trying to interact with a consumer in some way. So we're happy to kind of brainstorm different situations where generative AI could help your business model, but I think that it's really been industry agnostic. And Tony asks, in your travel agent example, the AI agent helped to rebook travel. How does this link to your prior comment about AI not being able to make changes? Does that require other integration? Yes, it does. So this is where the power of generative AI along with an automation platform like Pypestream is really powerful, because the generative AI is able to understand what the user is trying to do, and understand what the user intent is, and all the information about them, and what the possible outcomes could be. And then integrate with a system to say, and here's the options. In the same way that we had our cars, we're not going to offer cars that aren't available on the lot. We're not going to offer our consumers travel that isn't available, but the understanding and the ability to comprehend what they need and what would help with them is where the generative AI really pops in. Any other questions? And I appreciate you for staying over. Give it 30 more seconds. Great question. Can I elaborate on the data points at the start of the discussion around the number of inputs generative AI can ingest? So you mean the types of inputs? At this point, there's different models for various types of inputs. So we have things like we have image models that can take an image. So you've seen things like the Photoshop where it takes an image, it can take text, and then output updates to that image, which has been really powerful. But it can also take an image as itself as training data. It can take raw data. It can take text, obviously, or audio files also, and does the transcription. So it's been very, very powerful in that. If you do have more questions and want to get in touch with me, definitely LinkedIn is a great way to do that, as well as my email, eFeldman@Pypestream, which will be sent out around along with the recording of this. Yael asks, what mistakes have you seen when approaching generative AI? So definitely, I think that one of the mistakes is thinking that generative AI is magic and it can do everything. And I think Tony's question really highlights a great point of generative AI can do a lot of things, but it can't be actionable unless it's tied in with automation. And that's really what we've been working with some customers on in terms of making sure that the recommendations are correct, and that we can then take a next best step, because information is great, but helping users through a process is even better. But yeah, in terms of recommendations for how to approach it, I think continuing to talk about it, continuing to learn about it. I've done this presentation a couple different times, and every single time it has to get updated because new models. There was actually a new model released yesterday, and there's new information. The models are getting better. As you saw, GPT-3 was a super big jump, but since then we've had even more big jumps. And I think that just staying on top of it and staying reading the news, talking to industry experts is really important at this point, because it's very, very nascent and we're still figuring out really how it impacts on a lot of different businesses. Last call for questions. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Again, thank you for staying over. We will send out this recording. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out.